to the Entertainment Bank, and it is our absolute pleasure to be speaking with the gentleman you see to my left here, center screen. That's Terry Wollman, excellent guitarist.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, excellent guitarist, producer, studio musician, and we're going to hang out with Terry for a little bit. His new CD is called Buddha's Ear. Terry, welcome to the Entertainment Bank, man.
Thank you. It's so great to be here. This is really a fun way to get to know you.
And this is our first time doing a video recording. We thank you for wanting to take this route. And a little bit later, we have the next dimension of not just talking, but actually playing some music a little bit together, so we can actually connect on a musical level too. Tell us a little bit about your beginnings, where you grew up, and what led you to the West Coast.
I was born in Miami and basically lived there until I went away to college. But I did spend 6 months of that period when I was 15 living in Mexico City. Oh. So that was a little excursion that I think had a profound impact as far as exposing me to different world music and not being limited to American pop music or jazz.
When did you first know that you were going to be serious about the guitar?
Well, I didn't really know. I seemed to be the last person to know. I played since I was a child. I started on guitar as my first instrument, studied piano, ended up studying drums, clarinet in junior high school, which was not my strong instrument. Everything else I had an inclination towards, but I apparently was not a clarinet player.
That's funny.
But I hung in there for a year. I was last chair clarinet in 7th grade.
I had to start out on clarinet myself, and
right.
I wanted to be in this funk band, but they needed me on saxophone, so clarinet wasn't cutting it. So.
Right. Well, I wanted to play trumpet.
Oh, man.
I thought that would be a really cool instrument. My parents didn't want a trumpet in the house because it was too loud. So they said play flute. And for me at the time, flute was too much of a girl instrument. And in hindsight, it's not. It's a beautiful instrument. I love it. But I didn't want to be sitting in the back with just the girls playing flute. So clarinet was where I ended up. But I always pretty much stuck around guitar and piano. And it wasn't really until when I was 15 and lived in Mexico, I bought a nylon string guitar there and started to get more focused. I was going to say serious, but more focused on choosing that as my instrument, and then continued on. And it wasn't really until I finished high school that I went to Miami-Dade Junior College and started taking music classes, theory and harmony, and really took to it, made that decision as I was doing it that that's really what I wanted to pursue.
Did you get to study with anyone in Mexico City while you were there?
I did, and I don't remember the name of this main teacher that I had, because he was just some guy who was a Mexican older man that just played incredible, flamenco guitar and Spanish guitar, and he would just show me things. And
very difficult.
It was great. So I was studying from him while I was there. Before that, I took lessons as a kid, but mostly, and I was. My first band was probably when I was 10 years old, and I think it was 2 guitars and a drum, and we went, down to, I actually wrote about it in this interview that's on my webpage, but we went down, we knew 2 Beatles songs, I think, and we went down to audition, and they must have thought we were so cute, they hired us that day.
Is this your first gig? Is this your first gig, playing a gig out there professionally?
Yeah, playing at a pool in Miami Beach as a kid with only knowing 2 or 3 songs. And no bass, no piano, just 2 guitars and a drum and a drummer, probably not even a full drum kit. It might have been a snare and a hi-hat. And we played by the pool, the same songs over and over again. And so nice, I've been doing this a long time, but I got serious as I got older.
This is down there in South Beach and along Ocean Drive, that area there?
Absolutely.
Oh, nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
When you went to college, what were your experiences? First, you left home, and you're studying at Berkeley, I believe it was. Is Berkeley College of Music?
Yeah.
Who were your
Berkeley
instructors?
in Boston. Right. Berkeley College of Music in Boston.
Were you playing up there as well while you were in school?
Always. Yeah. Even when I was in junior college at Miami-Dade Junior College. And actually, you and I might have had some of the same instructors. I know you went to the University of Miami,
Yes,
and
I did.
some of those
That's right.
teachers taught at both schools.
That's right.
So like Joe Diorio was there teaching, and
That's right.
Ira Sullivan, and there were some just really wonderful instructors. So I kind of got the best of what was available in Miami at the
Best of
you know
both
at
worlds.
in a smaller environment before I decided whether I was going to go to University of Miami or Berkeley or another school. But yeah, I chose Berkeley.
It's
Yeah.
funny you mentioned Ira Sullivan. What a positive gentleman. So talented. I used to go to his jam sessions on Mondays,
Uh-huh.
and they had the organic brownies and all this stuff. But he was always
Oh,
encouraging you to
right.
get up and play. That's one thing I'll always remember about Ira Sullivan, besides the fact he could play anything.
Right.
What got you going into playing all these instruments? Tell our listeners about all the different instruments that you play, because it's amazing.
Well, anything that has strings, I'm curious about. So I'm open to learning it and figuring it out. And sometimes people will end up giving me an instrument, or if something will cross my path and somebody will say, I think you'd really would have an affinity with this because you like such eclectic instruments. So for instance, I started learning the balalaika from Russia because my aunt and uncle from Miami, Len and June, they brought a balalaika back from Russia, like,
Wow.
40 years ago on a vacation.
That's
And
amazing.
it was hanging on their wall all these years. And one year they just said, would you like this? Would you play this? And I was thrilled, because it was from my aunt and uncle. And so I took it home. I came back to Los Angeles with it and found somebody who was a balalaika master and took 1 or 2 lessons, just enough to point me in the right direction.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And then just started having fun, just trying to record it. I learn a lot just from recording, from seeing how I can really find it. I have a cavaquinho from Brazil, and a ukulele from Hawaii that somebody brought me back. But the cavaquinho was brought to me by my friend Keb Mo, who's a blues artist. And
Great blues artist.
yeah, he's wonderful, and he had a cavaquinho too, because he also is interested in other things besides the obvious. And
Right.
so he brought me one back from one of his trips from Brazil, and I ended up playing it on my new album on the song Obrigado. And
Which sounds great, by the way.
Thank you.
The
Thanks so much. And I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's quite all right. The new CD is called Buddha's Ear. And what led you to that title and some of the material that you choose? Very interesting choices. What guided you in the path of how you put this CD together?
Well, the title came as a song title first. I just woke up one morning with that melody for that particular song, Buddha's Ear, that's on the album.
Yeah.
Actually, on my birthday. That was, I believe it was 2 years ago, and I woke up on my birthday singing that melody.
Nice.
And I just kind of stayed slightly asleep until I could figure out, because I didn't realize it was a new song. No. I wasn't sure what was going on, and so then I stayed and let it sort of percolate, and then I got up and I probably sang it into my phone or grabbed a guitar, or but I think I just sang the melody so that I could capture it before I overthought it.
Terry,
yes.
Yeah, if you'd hold up, I'm running into a memory situation here.
No
Let
problem.
me make an adjustment. We'll keep what we've got, and then we can resume from there. Okay.
Sure.
All right. Let me first set as I'm here talking with Terry Wollman, first of all, this has been an absolute pleasure having you here on the Entertainment Bank, Terry, and talking about your experiences and the path that's led you from Florida to Berkeley and then out to California. Right. What led you to thinking about going to Los Angeles?
Well, I always loved pop music. And I wanted to be a touring musician and make records. That was my goal. That's what I wanted to do before I chose where to go to college, and it's part of the reason I chose going to Berkeley. And University of Miami would have been a great choice as well, but I wanted to be one of those guys whose name you saw on the back of an album cover, playing guitar, producing, doing the string arranging, writing the songs. That was my goal. And I was told by the people that I knew that were already in the business that I either needed to go to New York or Los Angeles to get started.
That's right.
Once I finished school. And, I wanted to come back to Miami, actually, because I loved it there, and there's a thriving music scene. But they said, you can't break in Miami. You need to go to one of these two meccas, and then you can go wherever you want. So I was cold. Part of the reason was I was just really cold from living in Boston for 3 years.
That's right. And, you're a Florida guy.
And I'm a Florida guy. I grew up in the tropics. So
that's right.
I felt that the climate was more suited for me. I liked being outdoors and exercising and being active. And in New York, it just didn't seem like where I was going to fit in as well.
More of the same climate, of course, as Boston, that's for sure.
Yeah. I was really, I joke around that, I say I lived in Boston for 3 years, 30 years ago, and I'm still cold, so those winters were tough, but I had a great experience being there.
When you came to Los Angeles, what year was that?
1981.
So, and that's the very year that you put your first CD together, Bimini. Talk about that. What was that like?
That was a couple of years later. That was more the mid '80s that I did that. But that for me was a really profound and experience that really helped define me as an artist, but as a person. I was working with other artists. I was playing with a lot of different bands around Los Angeles. My first tour in 1981 was playing guitar with Billy Preston and Sarita Wright, and went to Europe.
Wow.
It was amazing. So, because I've always loved R&B and rock and pop music, and so I was doing these different things. I was working with Joe Sample and the Crusaders as Joe's assistant. I was doing orchestrations and making sure that the charts got off, and back to the session in time for the next day's recording session.
Right.
And so I was exposed to the highest level of musicianship, the top players, and some of who have ended up playing on all of my albums, and I'm still friends with, and I met them through these experiences, and I wanted to do that. I felt like I had that in me, and to make a record, and I just decided to do it. At the time, I didn't wait around to get a record deal or anything. I was writing music, and I had a band that was playing around town, and I thought, I can do this. I know how to do this, and nobody else is going to know that until I do it. So I made a record.
Let me ask you a question about that particular period, because jazz wasn't really known as smooth jazz back then, and you had guys like Al Jarreau was out there, but the Crusaders, Return to Forever, Bobby Humphrey, Patrice Rushen,
sure.
Can you
David
talk,
Sanborn,
of course, the Brecker Brothers. Can you talk about the changes that you've seen from what was the beginnings of fusion with Weather Report and the Headhunters to where it is now? What do you think we lost? What do you think we've gained?
Well, one of the things that has profoundly changed is radio, and that has impacted what musicians have continued to record and release. They both kind of feed each other, but back then when my first album came out, my album got a lot of radio play. And interestingly enough, not just one song, every song on the album got radio play. And it got played because different DJs like yourself got the album. It was still, it was in the stores, it was put out there. However, people that worked at radio stations, program directors and DJs themselves would find themselves connecting to one or two pieces, and those were the pieces that they would play because they loved them and they played them. And so I was able to do something. Well, I still do the same thing. I haven't changed how I approach this. I work from the heart, you know, especially when I'm doing my own albums. I do what's true to me, whether I'm writing a pop song or an R&B song, or whether I'm doing the smooth jazz, you know, albums.
Right.
I put out what is honest and what I enjoy, and hopefully other people enjoy. So you know, back then you could, if you did that and you did it well, you know, you brought in the best players and the best engineers and the best mastering engineers and the best graphic designers, it would get out there and it would rise to the top.
Based on just how good it was. Based on just how good the music was.
Right. The music would guide the experience, you know, and I serve the music. You know, the music is my master. When I'm working with another recording artist, whether I'm touring or making records or performing live, I serve the song.
Right.
You know, even when I write the song, you had asked a little bit earlier before we went on the air about how do I choose the songs for my new album,
yes,
and they sort of choose me. You know, I have an idea of a couple of things that I want to record and a concept and a sound. But I start recording, and as the album grows, it tells me, you know, I have the luxury having my own recording studio that I can start with 2 or 3 songs, develop that direction, and then let the music guide me to what happens next.
Let me ask
in
you,
the arrangements and the song choices.
Let me follow up on that. How important is it that a musician really has not only the mastery of his instrument, but also the knowledge of the recording tools, like having his own studio? How important is that to shaping the sound that you want or the sound that you get?
It's critical. It's absolutely critical. You know, that's another thing that has changed from, you know, you're asking about headhunters and all the other, the artist crusaders. Back then, the musicians focused on being a musician. You know, now you basically are required to be an engineer.
Yes.
In order to be in the music business, to be a songwriter, to be a producer, to be a guitarist, to be a composer. You know, I need to be able to program a drum loop and EQ a vocal.
Right.
As much as I need to be able to master my instrument as a guitarist.
I feel it's a tough deal for guys that are actually trying to just be engineers. They have to be scary almost to survive in this business now. They
do, yeah. However, I still work with engineers. I've learned a lot about engineering from these wonderful engineers that I work with. So I'm able to record myself, but I still want to have their input.
Right.
You know, I love mixing. It's like painting. You know, it's 3-dimensional and where you place things, and it's a beautiful part of the experience for me as an artist and a composer. Not every musician or artist wants to be that hands-on on mixing, but I still want to bring in my mixing engineer to bring it up to the next level.
It's not, and also I would say it's probably not so simple to, excuse me, not so simple to have just an SSLG series waiting downstairs in the basement, or going versus going to Cherokee or something with a Neve board waiting there. So and I combine it. I mean, on the Buddha Zero album, I did most everything. You know, the basic tracks I did at my studio. Then I went to John Robbins' studio, JR, the drummer, to do bass and drums at his studio. So he had a studio with an engineer there, and I brought Abraham Laboriel over there. They played together there. I went to another studio to do percussion with Luis Conte. So Luis has his studio. So we did percussion overdubs there. With Gerald Albright. We did a long distance session, you know, where Gerald recorded his sax part in Colorado. But he and I knew each other. We've been friends for years. We played for years. So we both really have a deep understanding of what we are both doing, and he's a brilliant musician. So I told him what I needed. We had a phone conversation, and then he recorded. Mindy Abair
came to my studio and I recorded her. But we also, then I went to...
You're talking about the piano player?
The sax player.
Oh,
yeah.
sax player, yes. Oh,
yeah.
Fantastic.
But I also went to Capitol Recording Studio to do strings. And we did use the big board and the big room and had that experience. You know, I did a live string quartet recording session at Capitol. You know, so that's still a value. I didn't want to do it all myself.
Right.
And you know, the technology has gotten to the point where you can combine things in a way that really works, and you get the best of the best, you know, with every aspect of making a record.
That's actually kind of smart because what is it, an hour per hour at Capitol? I mean, being able to pre-produce, do pre-production to a certain level will save you a tremendous amount of money. I forget what the hourly rate is there. I think it's at least $150, $250 an hour or something like that.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. And normally they don't do short sessions. You know, they do half days, and you know, I basically said I don't need that much time.
Right.
You know, I'm bringing in 4 of the best string players in Los Angeles. I'm conducting. The tracks are already done. Here's who's playing on it. We're going to come in and out, and we're going to get this done.
Well,
and we did, and it was an amazing experience. And I'm so glad that we went there, you know, and included Capitol as one of the studios that I worked at.
Let's talk about.
It was great.
Let's talk about your website. As we're talking, I'm surfing over to terrywollman.com, and there you are there.
And
when they surf over there.
Can we spell that for everybody?
Sure, that's Terry, Wollman, Terry Wollman. And we're right there on your page, and there's a very interesting instrument. Would you tell our listeners, what is this that we're looking at here?
So that is on the About Terry Q&A page. That's the sarod, S-A-R-O-D. It's an Indian instrument called a sarod. That's sort of a cousin to the sitar.
How many strings? It looks like it's got an amazing number of strings on it.
I believe it's 36 strings.
Amazing.
It's somewhere in that vicinity. I don't remember. And there's all the sympathetic drone strings, you know, that are on the left side. Those are all the drones, and they crisscross. It's pretty amazing instrument. And then the big pegs at the top end of the instrument are for the main strings.
Okay.
And it's the fretboard is metal. It's a piece of flat, shiny metal.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah.
And as we scroll down a little bit, we see there's the cover for Buddha's Ear, and you're on CD Baby. You're on iTunes.
CD Baby, iTunes, Amazon, and you can also hear the music directly on my website. But those are the best places to buy it: iTunes, CD Baby, Amazon.
And tell us a little bit about another group. I went to your group, the Jazzmatics, on Facebook. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah.
Group. And
this is a new group. In addition to my band that I'm playing around town with, this is a band that I was asked to put together with Alan Kepler, who from Broadcast Architecture, who's the radio consultant, but he also has the Smooth Jazz Top 20 charts. So
very cool.
Alan's been very involved in the music business and contemporary jazz for as long as I've been doing this and you've been doing this. So he wanted an all-star band that played basically smooth jazz greatest hits, everything from David Sanborn, Al Jarreau, Earth, Wind and Fire, you know, what you hear on the radio now when you tune into what's considered a smooth jazz station. So these are from left to right. It's Luis Conte on percussion.
That's the gentleman with the hat on the left?
On the left with the hat and the glasses.
Okay.
Who, by the way, Ron Powell is doing our next Jazzmatic show in July, who's a percussionist from Kenny G's band, also plays with Sergio Mendes, and another great player. Luis is busy. He's going to be on tour. So there's Luis. Next to him is Reggie McBride, who's a bass player extraordinaire. And next to him is Melanie Taylor, who's one of the vocalists in the group. She's actually out on tour right now with Aerosmith. Yeah, and had sung with John Mayer the previous year. So she's a great artist.
And we recognize this next guy there. That's you.
This next guy is me with a jacket and a white shirt. You know, dressed up, just ready to go out on stage.
Do you get to bring
Gentleman next to me.
I was just going
I'm
to ask,
sorry. Go ahead.
do you get to bring all of your instruments on this gig?
Well, I keep it. I don't bring everything,
all right.
but I bring a few. I definitely keep it interesting.
Yes.
I definitely bring a few. So, but I'm primarily for this group. It's making sure I have a really good acoustic guitar and a couple of great electric guitars, and have the versatility without getting too eclectic.
Right. I got you.
Next to me is Leslie Smith, who's the other vocalist in the group. And then on trumpet is Lee Thornburg, who actually plays trumpet on my album on Obrigado, the current single.
Great solo on your CD, by the way.
It's one of the most wonderful solos I've heard in a long time, and it actually, I'm thrilled it's on my album. Lee's an extraordinary player, and that ended up on the ballot for the Grammys this past year for best solo on a instrumental jazz album. So it didn't make the final cut, but it made the ballot, and I was really proud of Lee, and it's an amazing solo. It's one of those solos, just like on Just the Way You Are, the Billy Joel tune, where you listen to the Phil Wood sax solo and you go, that song is not that song without that solo, and I think Lee did the same thing on this tune. So it's just props out to him. On trombone next to him is Nick Lane, who's a wonderful trombone player. Then to his immediate right, sitting on the stool, is drummer extraordinaire Ricky Lawson, who has just played with everybody from
big name.
Original drummer for the Yellow Jackets, founding member, Michael Jackson, Steely Dan. He plays in my Terry Wollman band, and I asked him to join the Jazzmatics too. So he's our drummer, and I couldn't be happier with having Ricky there. Behind him, keyboard player Greg Manning, who has an album of his own out right now called The Calling. Mm-hmm. And also, Gregory's the keyboard player on my Buddha's Ear album. So with the exception of one song that I played piano on the album, Gregory did the other keyboard parts. And he's a wonderful keyboard player. He's from Switzerland. And then finally to the right is Tom Evans on sax and in multi-woodwinds. And he's just a good friend and an incredible talent as well. And he also plays on one of the songs on my album too. So that's Jazzmatics. It's a rotating group of people. Mm-hmm. So this is the core group, but because everybody is so busy, touring with all the people that they play with, we're going to be rotating people of that caliber in and out of the group. So I
would imagine that would be the same problem that Steely Dan used to have trying to tour with all those guys that recorded with them. The same kind of a challenge. Yeah. But since you're based in LA, a lot of these guys are in the area there, so that makes it a little bit easier.
Yeah, and we wanted to make it a fun band where when you're in town, you do the shows. So I basically have, for example, for the percussion chair, Luis Conte is the percussionist, but I also have Ron Powell and Lenny Castro. So between those three, there's always going to be one of those guys in town.
Oh, you're
so
good to go.
Yeah, so we basically have the same for the different chairs in the group. We haven't I haven't subbed my chair out yet, but there might be some time where actually I bring in another guitarist. If I'm not able to make one of the dates, but right now I'm leading the band and we're having a blast. We're getting ready to do our second show in July at Spaghettini in Southern California.
Would you ever write? Would you ever write? I was just wondering, would you ever write for a group this size with all this talent? What would that sound like?
Writing for a group like this?
Yeah, Jazzmatic CD.
We're thinking about it. Absolutely. Yeah. And just to start off, we're also, because my first single on the album, Mandela, went to number 4 on Billboard and this past year, or most recently, and number 1 on Smooth Jazz Top 20. I'm actually a contender for writing songs for this band as well. So we've been playing Mandela in this band, and we're actually adding Obrigado, the new single. But we're going to do a different arrangement of it since we've got a full horn section than what I would do with my smaller band when I play around town or around touring.
Let's make a little history with the Entertainment Bank. I believe you have your your acoustic there on to your left.
I do.
Let's play a little bit of something here.
Okay. Let me take this off my lap.
Okay. And I take it you have several endorsements on your website. Which acts are you using this afternoon?
I'm using my Taylor.
Great.
It's which is the one that I feature actually on the Buddha Zero album, and it's a Taylor 912C, and
Beautiful
it's a
act.
just beautiful instrument. And they're a great company. I really like them. They really support their artists and stand by them. And if I ever have something that I need, here's the guitar.
Oh yeah.
But if ever, this is such a beautiful instrument. You would think that this is not the one you would actually take on a plane and travel because you want to protect it. But they don't want this just sitting in the studio. So I take this with me everywhere.
Wow.
And if anything ever happens to it, they'll make sure that it gets fixed.
When you are traveling, that's the number one thing I worry about with my saxophone. What kind of a case do you put this in so that when you're getting off the plane it's still in one piece? Because different airlines do not treat these things properly.
It's my heart's always in my throat every time I travel. But I have two cases that I use for this guitar. One is a very heavy anvil case that's custom made for this particular instrument. So if I know that I'm going on a long tour where it's going to be getting on planes or in the truck, then I ship it in the anvil so that if it gets banged around, it's the case that gets damaged. Other than that, I have a gig bag, a heavily padded gig bag, and I basically do my best to get it in overhead. I make sure it's in a bag that will fit in overhead, and I generally have been pretty fortunate. I get there early. And I let them take my other luggage. So if I've got a carry-on bag and my guitar, and they go, you can't bring that, I give them my carry-on bag.
Oh, I hear that, man.
Why don't you take that? This will fit in overhead.
That's right.
And generally, it's okay. Cool. It takes a little work sometimes, but the safest thing for me is to carry it myself and just put it in overhead.
Well, this is a tune I heard you playing on your CD. It's a wonderful song. Obrigado. I'm not pretending to even be nearly as good as Mr. Manning, but I did enjoy it, and I think our tempo about there.
Yeah, that's nice.
Two.
Can
Yeah.
sound great.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Nice. Nice. Right.
Yeah. Here we go, man. And we'll wrap it up. Yeah.
Nice.
Yes, sir, man. Very nice. That's a beautiful sounding X.
Yeah, and and it's just right out the. I mean, just in the room, it sounds amazing.
And thank you for
and then
stepping in and doing this with us. Why don't we? I'll put my neck on the line here with you. Let's do a blues in F.
Why don't we do something? We'll pick a tempo that's a little slower that allows the space so that I can still hear you in and out and kind of guess where you're going.
No, that makes sense because we're also sending signal. The time for the signal to get to you, even though it's not lag that we deal with MIDI, there's still the transmission bandwidth lag.
No, I just love in the way you sound, so I don't want to miss any of it.
It was cool. Man,
so
you were
great.
all over it, brother. Every time anytime you started to play a phrase, it was happening. Let me tell you that. Right. So
likewise,
you give me a count off, and I'm following your tempo this time. Okay. All right. You got it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
I just lost an ear. Hang on. All right.
That's quite all right. This is live, folks. This is as real as it gets. That's right.
That was fun.
Yeah. And that's right, folks. Making history on the Entertainment Bank, jamming with Terry Wollman. It can't get much cooler than that. Terry.
Well, and that's the first time I've ever done a live.
Same here,
duet,
man, and on Skype, no less.
City.
That's right. You're the first for both of us.
Right.
But you know what? I think we'll get to do some other things we were talking about. There are a lot of people that try to put information out, I think, on Facebook or MySpace about music and playing that seems to be misinformation. And I'm hoping that not only to share some other insights from musicians like yourself, what it's like to go into a playing situation and adapt to it and all of those things. When you're doing a recording session, there's a new guy that walks in. What are the right things they should be doing, and what are the things that let you know that, hey, maybe there's some growth that could be happening here?
When I first moved to Los Angeles, one of my friends and peers is guitarist Dean Parks, who's a great session guitar player.
Oh, yeah.
And Dean had said to me, make sure that you show up early, never be late.
Right.
Bring extra pencils, bring extra batteries, extra strings.
Yeah.
Bring a book, something to read. But because just get yourself there and make it fun and easy for the people that you're working for.
Right.
Just have a great attitude. But he said that thing about showing up early really made a big impact because time is valuable to everybody. Regardless of whether you're paying thousands of dollars for, being on a sound stage, doing a TV show or a recording session or whatever, it's, everybody's time is of value. So that's one of the things, but also to really be generous, to bring a sense of again, it gets back to serving the music, and not serving yourself, to look really to find what you can do to contribute to make the most out of this piece of music that is being presented to you. And a lot of it has to do not with just what you play, but what you don't play and where you leave your spaces. You know, I'm a big believer in silence as well as notes. You know, it's a big part of music. So I think
yes.
Go ahead.
I think the one question I wanted to ask you as we kind of wrap up is something that Dan Kuramoto brought up when me and Michelle were having an interview with him, and he was talking about the changes in the industry, the choices that you can make or want to keep or retain as an artist. And he was talking about diversity in the music that he's doing. What are your insights about that part of what you're of the creative process now for recording artists? Is it better that they maybe seek an independent path, or is the record industry is certainly the old structure of the labels, getting the deal and going that route, seem to be changing?
But yeah, they're shifting as we speak. You know, what it was yesterday is not what it's going to be tomorrow. So, but I would tell you that having a record label deal is not a requirement anymore. You know, I have some friends in all aspects of music, pop, blues, R&B, and certainly the contemporary jazz world that have label deals, and they're very happy and they're having great careers. But I also know a lot of independent artists that, you know, have made decisions to go out on their own, and it has not hurt them in any way. And in some ways, it's been financially a much better situation for them. And for me, I'm an independent artist right now. I opted to not go with a label deal, and it has not held me back. I mean, my first single has been on the Billboard Top 20 for 5 months.
Fantastic.
You know,
yes.
Yeah. So that's a great example of that the paradigm has changed. You know, it's you need to do something of quality and something that has some depth and do it with integrity, and, you know, work really hard to make sure that even after it's done, that you do everything you can to get it out there, you know, get the word out. And but it's you know, seeking the holy grail of a record label deal is that's not what's going on anymore with the record industry.
Well, Terry, I really want to thank you for those insights and your time today. You've actually reiterated where Dan was coming from. They actually stepped away from the Heads Up label to have that freedom to do exactly what you're talking about. And to and again, it's not about they were looking for a fan club as much as building a community of people that support the music. And so you're with a lot of like minds that have the talent and see a new way and are really helping to break a new path. And we certainly thank you for that. And thank you for joining us at the Entertainment Bank. Terry Wollman.
And thank you for supporting me as an artist as well. It means the world to me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And again, you can find Terry Wollman at terrywollman.com. And the Jazzmatics, do they have their own website as well?
They do. It's jazzmatics.com as well. And there's or there will be links from my site or from my Facebook page. So yeah, but you can definitely stay in touch with us regarding this record that's in the works with the Jazzmatics and the upcoming shows that we're going to be doing. It's a lot of fun. It's a 10-piece band with a horn section. That's a lot of energy.
That's serious. That's serious.
Yeah.
Again, thank you.
Thank you.